Let's bring in Kate Hardcastle, who's a retail expert. And Kate, Boots is interesting because it's quite a wide-ranging business, but it's faced competition on all fronts. You've got its beauty business, which has faced a lot of competition from online. The old, some of the pharmaceutical products that you might pop in to buy are now sold at some of the cheaper stores like B&M's. Photos you do online. So it's kind of found itself in an odd situation, hasn't it?
You're right, Justin. And these are very big stores as well. To sell quite a unique product range in one big store, like photography, for instance. But when you've got almost challenges across every single sector, it's quite difficult. So they do have a photography business which has seen decline because we tend to take more pictures on our phones and we don't tend to print them as much. And there's a lot of online competition. Even though the beauty industry has seen huge growth, it tends to have been in more of the niche brands. And these mass market big retailers have struggled. They've also not really created any retail theatre in these environments. So they're reliant more on the health side of life, which is perhaps the opticians, perhaps some of the hearing clinics. But a lot of these stores have got duplicates in the same town. So even though Boots are saying, look, it's always under evaluation, it would make sense that, unfortunately, that portfolio would probably have to shrink in time.
What can they do? You're interested in what you say about this theatre inside stores, and some brands like Debenhams have been trying it recently and maybe not with a great deal of success. But, I was in a Boots a few days ago and it didn't look any different to probably how it did 10 years ago.
That's exactly right. And people are looking, they don't have to shop anymore. So it's about how you can draw them in to want to shop, because pretty much everything can be ordered online. A lot of retailers are relying on services like beauty, hairdressing, etc., to try and boost that. Now, Boots actually has some of that in the mix. You can't really do an eye test online. You can't really do a hearing test online at the moment. So those are opportunities for them. But if we look at Primark, you and Nihal were talking earlier about examples of where retail is still being done well and is quite strong on the high street. Primark are a key example of that. And even they've chosen retail theatre as something to explore in their big department store in Birmingham. They've got all of the razzmatazz of the brands they're working with, the partner brands like the Harry Potter franchise, and they're creating theatre with a Disney cafe. So it is about that stop and spend mentality, because you can't just serve up products in some kind of warehouse environment without the expertise, the knowledge or the savvy that go with it.
And Kate, what are retailers telling you about what can be done to help them from a local government perspective? Parking, Justin and I were talking about, rents, of course. So government perhaps getting involved to ask landlords to be perhaps a little bit more, flexible in times of difficulty. Are we seeing any of that? Because we focus quite a lot on what the retailers themselves can do, but they also presumably have issues about what can be done externally to help them.
It's a very expensive business to be in, retail, and traditional retail. The idea of a store that has to have light and electricity, has to have people serving in there, has to have stock, and you have to experience elements of things like shrinkage. You might have goods taken, for instance, from the public. This is a lot to go through on top of heavy rent and rates, which haven't really been processed and made real into the times we're trading in today. Faced with online competition, which has its own costs. This is not some dream world where they don't have costs involved. They have high return rates, etc. But it is a very difficult model to maintain. What I think needs to have happened 10 years ago are some of the conversations that are only just starting to happen now. And we have to accept that we're going to see a smaller footprint of traditional retail in towns and cities across the UK, and hopefully make way for more community things like nurseries, maybe healthcare, etc., where we can actually congregate in those areas and have a reason to go there. I will say, though, you will not find a more buoyant, positive person about brilliant retail than me. I don't want to beat up retailers. I want them to survive and thrive. But what I hear constantly, what I hear constantly is that the service is so woeful. And I am all also kind of an entry point for a lot of people to say, can you help me with this? I'm getting nowhere with this customer service issue. Now, a lot
That's
of
if you
time
can
that's-
find stuff.
Exactly.
I was in a supermarket this morning. I was like, good grief, does anyone work here?
But then you're saying, Kate, at the same time that retail is very expensive, and one of the ways for them to save that money is fewer
Labour
staff.
costs. Yeah.
Exactly this situation, a catch-22, financial decisions, how can we make it cheaper, take people off the floor? And then we've got good people on retail floors who want to serve, who are saying, I've now got 3 jobs instead of 1, and I'm running from, this place to this place, trying to do all of these different things, stock taking, online delivery orders. I can't serve the customer in the way it used to be. But wouldn't it be an obvious, natural thing if you were looking as an outsider into this retail environment and say, well, if people are coming into stores, they probably do want human interaction. They probably do want serving because they can get the rest of it online. So why don't you actually focus on making sure that's something you keep and try and find other ways to cut the costs?
To show kind of the catch-22 in this, Nahal, on the Wake Up to Money podcast 5 Live on Friday, we had the boss of WH Smith's, who've come under a lot of criticism for the state of some of their stores, and he was saying that, well, we could spend the money to do them up, but they're not profitable enough, so we just have to shut them. So we either have a few of these stores that maybe aren't
not
in
a very
the best
ambitious
condition, but it's what do you want? Stores not in a great condition, or we close them, and that's a really tricky one. So, and thanks for noticing that I had been to Boots.
Mate, looking good.
Yeah, thanks.
Justin's looking fly here. Funny, this is, wasted on radio. Justin from 5 Live Money, wasted. Luckily, we've got the webcams in here just for you. In fact, that they're putting them on, and they're supreme eyewear that you're wearing. Other suppliers of eyewear, of course, available on the high street. Kate Hardcastle, thank you very much indeed. Justin Bowes from 5 Live Money, thank you to you as well.